because we need young men to do stupid things, developing to become grown-ass men someday. We need them. We need them for our future. I remember those days, speeding, tailgating, singing to music at the top of my lungs with the windows down, and the guy my age, 57, looking over, telling me to turn it down, moving his hand like that. I remember one guy speeding by me and pointing as he's speeding by at the front bumper of my Jeep with a frown, insinuating that I was an idiot. That was from an actual adult. And of course, he was right. I was doing stupid things. But I was slowly and surely becoming a man, like all of the other men who came before me, learning the hard way. I'm Todd Vande Hei, CEO of Stark, and I've gone from vegan to paleo to keto to carnivore, from cryosaunas to ice baths, to training like an athlete to being injured like one, enhancing my mobility and optimizing my sex hormones with thousands of labs and various forms of scans. I'm surrounded by high-level medical doctors, naturopathic doctors, chiropractors, nutritionists, and strength coaches, all leading me in concert to a state of optimal health. And I'm here to share that journey with you, regardless of your age, your genes, or your medical conditions. This podcast I'm calling Strong on Purpose. It's the first of a 3-part episode on men, mothers of boys, and fathers of boys, and of course, mothers and fathers of grown men. And here we're going to talk about what it really means to be strong, not just in the gym, but in life. And we're going to explore the health, the mindset, and mission behind masculinity, and how to build confidence, longevity, and purpose in a world that I think has forgotten what strength really means, especially for men. This topic is near and dear to my heart because I'm a father. I'm a father of a man who is 25 years old, but he wasn't always 25 years old, and he's doing really well. And the reason we're talking about this today is because men are struggling. Testosterone levels are plummeting, anxiety and depression are rising, and too many young men, they feel disconnected from purpose. You can kind of see it in their eyes, and when you interact with them, you can see that there's something missing, and in replacement of that, there's a sort of a newfound struggle. We've created a culture, I think, that's told men to tone down their instincts, to be less assertive and maybe less ambitious and less physical, and now we're seeing the consequences. So inside of the Stark community, in and among our practitioners, we believe strength isn't a toxic concept. It's foundational. It's the root of a man's ability to protect, to provide, and to persevere through difficult times. And those aren't outdated values. They're essential values. Strength gives men the confidence to lead and the courage to face challenges and the capacity to care for other people. And further, it's how men are designed physically. I remember learning about this term toxic masculinity. And I first heard about it in the 80s in college. I popped out of that beautiful liberal arts college, St. John's University, thinking and feeling that masculinity was a bad thing. I actually remember thinking I need to tone it down. I have to be less of myself naturally. And I didn't have the prefrontal cortex developed yet to really think this through. But when I think back, I remember feeling that way. And not that this is a bad thing, but I felt like I needed to be more sensitive. I felt like I needed to be more careful. Nature took over, and sadly wasn't, or thankfully wasn't either of those things deep down. But on the surface, I felt like I had to be that. I had to be something different than what I felt like I was naturally. Essentially, as I became a young adult, I worked very hard to suppress my emotions, and at the same time, be more sensitive to others. And that's what I believed a man should be. And in that, I wasn't far off the mark of what my current 50-year-old father's perspective is. It was hard developing into an adult, but it's been hard for everyone since the beginning of the Homo sapiens. Up until recently, well, 40 years ago, I think it was hard, but it was clear. And in the past decades, it's been hard and unclear for young men, or an approach to masculinity that is, as an older leader of young men, it's disorienting, to be honest. I mean, developing as a man has probably always been, I would say, a bit confusing. I just think that's probably normal as you pass through those difficult teenage years. But I think it's even more confusing today. And so I think, generally speaking, we need to have sort of a cultural recalibration for men, for young men. And I live in Orange County, just south of Los Angeles. And for years, I've watched the cultural pendulum swing hard against traditional masculinity. But in that process, here's what I've learned. Strength and compassion, they aren't opposites. True masculinity isn't about dominance. It's about discipline and integrity and service to others. And when men are strong and healthy, everything improves. Relationships, families, communities. Strong men are essential to those. And we intuitively know that. The absence thereof is kind of scary, actually. So all men, but mostly young men, are truly at risk of leaving a void in our communities. And therefore, we are at risk. And we have been really for decades. And this is a problem that really, truly deserves attention. We see the cultural impact through the lack of health of young men in the most obvious of ways, that they don't act like young men. And the absence of young men is leaving a void. The presence of young boys is prolific. Here are some of the examples that you can witness. It's always been very common for young men of immigrant families to live at home throughout their adulthood, saving money. Very practical, very smart. But when you see young men across all socioeconomic backgrounds doing the same thing, it makes me kind of wonder what's wrong. I mean, I remember the desperate tug of wanting to spread my own wings and move out of the house, live on my own, show the world what I could do, which at that stage in my life wasn't much. And all of my friends, they were doing the same thing, with a few questionable youngsters living in the basements of their parents' home. In the Midwest, that was kind of a rare thing. Today, it's common. And maybe it's a cost of living thing. And I'm sure that definitely plays a role. But here's what I also see. Young men come into Stark with their fathers. Let's say 18-year-old boy comes with a 50-year-old father. And the father, who's not pretty from a lab's perspective or body composition perspective, meaning the results that we see on the DEXA scan, or orthopedic health is compromised. They have all those things typically. That father has higher testosterone levels than their son. I got to say that one more time. The 50-year-old father has higher testosterone levels than the 18-year-old son. That is shocking. And that is a scary, scary difference from the previous 300 million years. But what does that mean? You're all probably clear on the mental well-being impact of testosterone, of low testosterone specifically. If not, I'll rattle off some symptoms. Lack of motivation, certainly one. Depression, anxiety, obesity, diabetes, low sex drive. Those are all related to low testosterone levels. Now, look to the young man on your left or your right and ask yourself, does it look like one of those? Because I'm somewhat active on Instagram, don't judge me, by the way, it's a part of my job. I noticed young girls sending me inappropriate DMs. And it's hard to miss, to be honest. And why? Because it's not normal behavior, as far as I'm concerned, for young women to be acting like that. I would never have had a girlfriend in the 80s who was into 57-year-old men. I mean, that never happened. It's crazy. Are you kidding? That never happened. I never had friends date men, even a decade older. 25-year-old girlfriend dating a 35-year-old man. Never. And if you ask any of them today, it's because they're not into men their age. So something really strange is going on that is intuitive on the part of young females, also concerning. But why are they acting like that? Now, as a father, I'm worried because we need young men to do stupid things, developing to become grown-ass men someday. We need them. We need them for our future. But maybe it's just social media. So I I did some research. Maybe this is just some weird thing that sprung out of all the stuff on Instagram that never was in existence 15 years ago. Back to the research. Car accidents. What do actuarial charts read? Down by a third among young men in recent years. Are you kidding me? Young men are no longer getting in car accidents? Crazy to me. I mean, fewer car accidents are great for all of us, but fewer actual men are not good. Teenage pregnancies, here's another one, down by a third. What? That is shocking. How can that be? No sex among young people for the first time in 300,000 years? That is crazy. Our genes haven't changed that much, but a lot of other things have changed a lot. Speeding tickets, down by a third. No young men are speeding anymore. That is crazy. I remember those days, speeding, tailgating, singing to music at the top of my lungs with the windows down, and the guy my age, 57, looking over, telling me to turn it down, moving his hand like that. I remember one guy speeding by me and pointing as he's speeding by at the front bumper of my Jeep with a frown, insinuating that I was an idiot. That was from an actual adult. And of course, he was right. I was doing stupid things, but I was slowly and surely becoming a man like all of the other men who came before me, learning the hard way. And here's what we know for sure. These poor young men, they are not healthy. We also know why. And I'm sure there are many other indicators of health other than the details I shared above. And this isn't just for boys or young men. The same cultural norms, they affect all men until you're too old to give a damn. 70, 75, 80, 85. And if all men are affected, what about the mothers and the daughters and the wives and the girlfriends? My point is, we are all affected and need to do something and take a part in enabling change of young men. So outside of the cultural issues, in my opinion, the physiological considerations are really the easiest ones to manage. So as a father, the first lever I would pull is ensuring that my son is physically healthy. They generally want more of that, or at least they imagine they want it. Maybe they're not taking action. Their pursuit should be optimally healthy. He has no physical limitations to achieving that at that particular stage in his life, 15, 16, 18, 22 years old. Inside of our clinics, we see many self-imposed barriers, though. And those self-imposed barriers need to be removed with the supervision of a parent or someone that they look up to. Poor sleep. Parents and adults, get your arms around that. As a developing young man, physically and emotionally, which is hard enough in our historical past. I remember going through it. It was difficult. You have to ensure that good sleep is present. All health indicators plummet without it. So teach them while they're in the home and hope they continue when they get out of the home. You can find lots and lots of content on the Stark website, stark.health, about sleep. Check it out. Follow along. There are just a lot of very basic concepts, going to bed at the same time, making sure your bedroom is really dark, making sure it's really cool, and making sure that there's not a lot of noise happening. So it needs to be quite quiet. Those things need to be in place in order to sleep well. And you know what young men are doing before they go to bed. They're watching porn, they're playing Xbox, they're communicating online, they're on Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. It's a mess. So what I think you should do, which is what I did with my kids, is I taught them how devastating porn is. It's physically devastating. We can talk about that in a minute. Emotionally devastating, mentally devastating, relationally devastating. It actually affects relationships with actual humans. The whole thing is just a mess. I can't imagine what a wreck I would have been if I had that kind of access to porn back then. These young men have developing brains, so they haven't fully developed. Protect them. Porn is devastating to that developing brain. Video games. High cortisol spikes because of the stress and excitement equals low sex hormones. Devastating to the young brain. Sunshine. They need to go outside to increase vitamin D levels, which helps build sex hormone receptors. I can't get into all of that right now, but hear this question. How do you feel in the summer when you have a tan versus the dreary winter months. That's a biochemical reaction. So go get some sunshine. Make sure that they come with you. Don't let them stay inside all day long. They need it even more than you do. Here's another one. Basic concept. Make sure they're doing hard things, things that are scary to them, things that are outside of their comfort zone, things that they perceive to be risky. And if they really don't want to do them, as a father, I would have their labs checked because something might not be right. It's normal for a young man passing from those younger years into puberty to want to take big risks. And because their prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed, they're going to do really stupid things. It's a normal thing. And you're going to want to take care of them and protect them. But in the absence of them behaving that way, I would be concerned. So encourage them to do things that are difficult physically, that are physically uncomfortable. Encourage this. This is why I love and kind of hate strength training so much. There's a heavy degree of misery that comes with it. But, if strength training doesn't resonate with your son, long distance running may resonate with another. Just have them do something physically difficult, physically miserable that they really don't want to do. Just do hard things. This plays into depression and anxiety and substance abuse problems, or the lack thereof does. Humans need to do hard things and experience pain to appreciate beautiful, pleasurable, wonderful things like the security and safety we have in our beautiful first world country. To take these things for granted means you merely don't have the contrast. You have to have the contrast to appreciate these wonderful things, and you can't be healthy and happy and fulfilled in your life if you have no appreciation of the wonderful things in your life. You kind of see how this a spiral effect. If your son or your friend or your nephew or whomever, your best friend, doesn't do hard things, they cannot experience their full potential of joy and happiness. There must be some misery. These will all lead to improved physical health. So reclaiming physical health isn't just about looking good or bigger biceps for that young dude that wants them or abs. It's about restoring the capacity to live with purpose. But young men should be concerned about looking good, by the way. If your young man in your life, in your family, whomever that is, if that little dude doesn't want to look better, something may be off. It may be physical, it may be mental, but likely it's a combination of both because they really can't be separated. There's no separation of your mind from your body. So for parents raising boys, if you're a mother raising a boy or a father trying to guide your son, this conversation really matters. Boys today need examples of strength that are both tough and tender. Back to my early childhood, I think strong men become comfortable with their emotions, with their feminine side. But they also need to exercise masculinity. Show them what that means. Encourage masculinity. I met a mother in her 40s just a couple of days ago whose 15 or 6-year-old son recently in Newport Beach had a knee injury from playing football. Was the quarterback, I believe. He became sedentary, which is normal. You can't move around. He changed his diet from what was great to, junk food, basically. And he's kind of falling apart. She was sharing that with me. He doesn't want to go to prom now, which is right around the corner. She's making him. That's smart, in my opinion. Don't let them isolate too much. It's a very common young man thing to isolate when you face a problem. He's depressed because he's no longer on the football team and is emotionally struggling. It's a very, very masculine outcome. And with technology, here's where things have recently changed. It can be devastating for young men. I'm sure that there was some evolutionary benefit to isolating, becoming strong, and making your way back to the tribe when you faced obstacles. But today it can be devastating. Men promise trauma and sadness and have challenging times because they do it alone. But eventually, way back then in, a couple 100,000 years ago, we would eventually have to come out of the cave to eat. And here's the funny contrast. It's really not so funny. You don't have to do that today. Pizza and ice cream can get delivered right to your couch. It's not good. It really is problematic. And it's more problematic for men. When young girls or women face emotional stress or trauma, they get together with their friends and they talk about it and they cry together and they process it together. Young men just don't do that. So today we need greater interventions for young boys so that they become men in a healthy way. They also need to see what responsibility looks like, not through words, but through behavior. They need to observe responsible behavior. I can't believe the behavior I've seen among a small group of young men at Stark. I mean, we're talking about in the single digits, which is a good thing, that it's not that big of a group. And I've never said this before out loud. I wonder what their parents think, because the things that they do and the decisions that they make and how they communicate them are borderline horrific. Walking off a job, suing an employer, backstabbing others. These things have always been a part of humanity forever, but this kind of behavior seems to be spreading into older years with no consideration to the long-term impact. There seems to be a distinct lack of mentorship for young men who need it terribly and at the same time are kind of rebelling against it. To bring it back to some practical solutions, getting strong and having a healthy body goes a long way to developing some of these much-needed characteristics. When young boys learn to lift something heavy, for example, he's learning discipline. He's learning patience because it doesn't happen quickly. It's a very large feedback loop. And to a certain degree, some self-belief because he doesn't know that it's actually going to lead to a positive outcome. But by doing the activity, he's exercising belief in himself that he can actually accomplish something that's going to take some time and discipline. Strength training is sort of like character training to a certain degree. It's how boys begin to understand that effort leads to growth, and that growth leads to confidence. And here's the wonderful thing about the whole situation is that effort is in many cases really, really boring. And the experience of that boredom or lack of forward momentum and the pain, the emotional strain that puts on you is needed, because then when the accomplishment finally rolls around, the appreciation and the joy from that accomplishment is greater because the contrast is greater. So considering the philosophy of my company, it's very easy to see these common problems because in our ecosystem, there's no separation between the mind and body because there actually isn't a separation. At Stark, we train bodies, but we also train mindsets. We are a mentor platform for modern men, helping them reconnect with who they're designed to actually be. And men are designed to be a lot. And young boys are just younger, smaller, underdeveloped versions of what they're capable of as grown men, which again is a lot. I mean, they can accomplish really anything they want, but they don't believe it today. So let me recap. We've talked openly about hormones and mental health and sleep, recovery, and self-respect. Because a strong body without a strong mind and mission, it's really just noise. But if you're developing a strong body, it can lead to a strong mind. It can lead to a mission. So if you have a young man in your life, I suggest you do the same. At the very least, encourage them to be physical. Develop their physicality. It's a critical part to developing masculinity. Physical strength can become the gateway to transformation. I'm certainly not on the forefront of leading people toward this shift in mindset. The forefathers, I would say, are David Goggins, who, by the way, I don't recommend you follow his advice on exercise, but mental toughness is a central theme in his approach. And same with Jocko Willink, one of my favorites. There's a craving right now for authenticity, for grit, for enhanced accountability. And the message is simple. Life is better when you choose hard things, when you lean into discomfort, whether it's physical or emotional discomfort, and when you demand more for yourself. I've been practicing this concept for years. I'll give you a short list of suggestions if you want to try to speed things up. Number one, lift weights hard and at least once a week. And I mean hard. Like, try to go to your edges. And I wouldn't suggest you do this on a regular basis, but really, really hard, like beyond what you think you're able to accomplish. Or, alternatively, sprint or do sprints on an Airdyne, which removes the orthopedic problem associated with actual sprints, which I can't really do at my age. I might pull a hamstring. That looks like about 30 minutes of full-on misery. Get reacquainted with the edges of misery periodically. Take cold showers every morning. That's also miserable. Or if you have access, do an ice bath several times a week, like me. Go outside when it's really, really hot and muggy, and then do something hard outside and feel your body start to sweat and struggle. Go outside when it's really, really cold and take your jacket off. Shiver. Be uncomfortable. Never park close by. Don't use valet parking. Park far away. Get more steps. Break a little sweat while you're doing it. Get some sun on your face. Don't be inside too much. Turn your phone off for several hours. Throw away all the junk food in your pantry, making it harder to get the junk food. Nobody has perfect discipline, but add some structure to your life so that you are able to become fully what you're capable of. And get the young men in your life to do these things with you. Have them observe this shift in your approach to living your life. I've found over the last 15 years leading Stark that the influence I have on others simply by doing things differently has really been profound and kind of surprising. The knowledge of the impact is what keeps me going because I love my family and my community. I know you love your family too. Do the same. Lead by example. Show those young men how to do things harder so that they can be happier. If you're a man ready to reclaim your strength, or you're a parent who wants to raise a confident and capable young son, this podcast is for you. Because masculinity isn't broken. It merely needs to be rebuilt one man at a time, one young man at a time. I think we can do it. If you like today's topic, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to learn more about Stark, you can find us at stark.health. That's stark.health.